welcome to Cryptid Wilderness Research Podcast. I am Daniel Becker up here in Anchorage, Alaska. And joining me as always from Quincy, Washington, my fellow host, Matt Slater.
Hello.
How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm over the sickness finally, and so I can get back and doing stuff.
Yeah, glad to have you back, man. What's been happening down there in Quincy weather-wise? Is the season's in full change or what's happening?
It's starting to ease into the fall time. It's starting to get cold. We're hitting about 30 degrees sometimes in the mornings, 30, 31. Leaves are changing. Leaves are falling off the trees. It's getting cold.
Up here in Alaska, we've seen a few flakes of snow. We had actually some snow on the ground, but it didn't stick. And of course, the snow keeps moving farther and farther and farther down the mountains. And you remember what we call it up here, right?
Termination dust.
Termination dust. That's right. So tonight we wanted to do something a little bit different. Right now down in Arkansas, the Keith Crabtree Fouke Monster Halloween Bash campout is going on. And Keith Crabtree is a friend of the show's, and we wanted to kind of do a salute to him because we learned recently that he's going to be retiring from the campouts and from doing the conference circuit. And so we just wanted to talk a little bit about Keith and what he's meant to the Bigfoot research community and to us personally with his kindness. We had the pleasure of, or I had the pleasure of meeting Keith this past April down in Arkansas, and he was kind enough to sit down with us in the studio and do an episode where we went over the game camera pictures from Ground Zero, the research area down there, and with William Lunsford and Stephen Hill. And he not only reviewed the pictures with us from the game cams, but he also talked a little bit about his experiences doing the Legend of Boggy Creek movie. So what a great poster for that movie. Don't you think so, Matt?
It's excellent. It's so good.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask my partner here, what kind of impact do you think that movie had on the Bigfoot research community as a whole?
Oh, that movie had a massive impact. It was huge, and it really brought the community out to the forefront. And they still show that movie at festivals down there in the South, and that whole region down there around Boggy Creek, around Fouke. They still talk about and see the Fouke monster on a daily basis, practically. That movie was huge.
Yeah, and he's such a great guy, and he brought so much to the Bigfoot research community, and he's going to be he's going to be retiring, but and we're really going to miss him, and hopefully we'll hear from him every now and then. Maybe we can check in with him and get him on an episode, but we really wanted to pay tribute to him and everything he's done. And we call him the Legend of Boggy Creek. And when I was out at his house, he gave me some T-shirts and some hats and an autographed picture, and we did a short interview about the snakes that are on his land. And I had asked him, how many or what's the biggest snake that you had to kill out here? He actually calls his land there Copperhead Hill because there were so many snakes and big snakes at that. So what we're going to play is the short interview I did with Keith about the snakes, and then we're going to connect into the episode that we did with Keith Crabtree and William Lunsford down in Texarkana, Arkansas this past April. So again, on behalf of the Cryptid Wilderness Research podcast team and our CWR network, from Kim Dorman down in Oklahoma, and Sherry Campbell in Florida, Duke Sullivan up in Montana, and the rest of the members of the network. Again, a big thank you to Keith Crabtree for all that he's done for the research community and for that great movie, The Legend of Boggy Creek, that impacted all of us researchers so much, and that area of Arkansas so much.
Yeah.
So we just, like I said, we just wanted to pay tribute to him. Any Matt, any thoughts on on this movie and its impacts that it had?
I mean, the movie had such a huge impact on the community. It brought so many people into the Bigfoot Sasquatch circle. And with Keith, he played the monster in the movie, of course, and with him over these years, giving his time to the community, to the convention circuit, spending time with fans, spending time with Bigfoot researchers, and being in the community. I mean, he's such a great guy.
He is probably one of the kindest gentlemen that I've ever had the privilege of meeting. And you're right, he touched the hearts of a lot of people
Yeah.
doing these conferences and doing these campouts. And yeah, we're sad that he's retiring, but very thankful for the time that he spent with all of us researchers and all the fans that he got to meet with. So without further ado, let's go into the snake talk, and then following that, you're going to see the episode that we did down in Texarkana, Arkansas this past April, where we went over game camera footage from Ground Zero with William Lunsford. And yeah, Keith Crabtree, we wish you nothing but the best in retirement from this area of study, and we want nothing but happiness for you. So thanks for all that you've given to the Bigfoot research community and to all your fans out there. Thank you, my friend.
Yes, thank you so much.
Enjoy.
Hi, this is Daniel Becker with Cryptid Wilderness Research, here with the legend of Boggy Creek, Keith Crabtree. And Keith, I have to ask you about snakes. I've seen snakes all over the place down here. What's the biggest snake that you've ever had to kill on your property?
The biggest one that I've killed here was a stub-tailed water moccasin in the chicken coop, and I thought it was two snakes. It was so big. And next to that, the biggest copperhead snake I ever seen, I killed under the front porch. And I've killed 40 copperheads the first season I was here in the summer, within 16 foot of the house. And I took all the greenery and the stuff out. And in the process of that, I got 2 yellow jacket nests up at the same time. And they had 2 gals allergic to them, so they had to go. And the copperheads love iron ore, and that's what's under all this dirt here on top of this hill, is iron ore. It stays warm.
Keith Crabtree, Legend of Boggy Creek, you are a brave man. Welcome to Cryptid Wilderness Research. My name is Daniel Becker, normally coming to you from Anchorage, Alaska, but once again, coming to you from Texarkana, Arkansas at the Texarkana Podcast Studio. Joining me, as always, are my co-hosts. First, in Quincy, Washington, Mr. Matt Slater.
Hello.
And
Amen.
next, a man who has been on a brief hiatus, but he's back feeling good. The man who needs no introduction in the entire municipality of Anchorage, Alaska, Paul Ayotte.
Hello.
Great to have you guys. Joining us this evening, first to my right, author and my Bigfoot research partner, William Lunsford.
Hey, everybody.
And then a very special guest tonight, the legend of Boggy Creek, the man who put the Legend of Boggy Creek on the map, and this actually starred in the movie, played the monster in the Legend of Boggy Creek and various other parts. It's such a great privilege to have you with us tonight, Keith Crabtree.
Thank you for having me. I'm proud to be here.
Great. So tonight we're going to be talking about different photos. And we're going to start out with creature photos. These are photos that were taken from our research area, and we're going to be putting those up on the screen and discussing it. And also we're going to be talking some about Keith Crabtree's Boggy Creek experience. And we do want to give a shout out to our research partner, Stephen Hill, who couldn't be here with us tonight. He's feeling under the weather. So, Stephen, we wish you a speedy recovery. All right, so let's get started. Let's bring up that first photo. All right, great. And this is from Ground Zero. William, why don't you go ahead and get us kicked off with this one?
Okay. This is a photo I got about a month ago. I have, even as we speak right now, I probably have, I think I have 8 cameras up in the woods right now. And this right here is a picture of a creature that I've seen twice, and actually got one picture of him before this. It's a creature called Blackie. Blackie is over 1,000 pounds. His shoulders are close to 5 feet wide, and he is a very, very colossal animal. He's standing right there. I have a tube there that we put apples in. And so gravity brings him downhill. So I think he's the one that's been stealing my apples. If you notice Blackie, every time I have a picture of a Bigfoot never hold their head up straight. Bigfoot always tilt their head. You can see right there that Blackie's got his head tilted there. And like I said, he's very, very a beautiful creature, beautiful black coat. We sat there one day with about a 7-minute staring contest, and he won because I was ready to get out of there when we got through. But anyway, this is Blackie. Like I said, I have one there that's just regular than one that I've got highlighted. Again, the highlights are not for us, folks. That's just to make it a little bit easier so you can see it, and then you can concentrate on other aspects there of what you may want to look at with that picture right there. So again, that's Blackie. That's up there in the foothills of the Ouachita Mountains. And if you notice if you've seen the Legend of Boggy Creek, how much that creature there actually looks like what Keith played there in the movie there.
So, William, is this photo from a game cam, or is this a photo that you got freehand?
It's actually a photo from a game cam right there. I got, like I said, maybe it's within the last month. I can't tell you exactly how many days, but within about the last month there. We've been getting a lot of photos there. We've been getting them since last October, very periodically, but then now it's really stepped up a lot. And so, like I said, I've only gotten Blackie. He's very, very intelligent. He just doesn't give himself up very often like that. But anyway, I was glad to have that picture there. As I told Daniel today, he and I were in the woods, and I've actually, I think, seen Blackie one time that was actually trying to skirt me around a little bit. It made me very, very uneasy. But like I said, his size is just what's just so massive about that. But again, that's something I'm glad to share with folks. There's no doubt you can see what that is, and that's not the first time and not the only. Sure enough, we actually have one on our research area that's bigger than that, and so like I said, glad to share that as well. So
Keith, let's go to you. You're very familiar with this part of the state, obviously. Looking at this picture, what are your thoughts on this?
Oh, it's authentic. You're talking to one of the most credible researchers in this area. There's not any doubt in my mind about it. I have seen them dark spots, but this is one of the better pictures. The pictures that I have don't come out as clear because I'm just a spur of the moment with a phone camera. And then I go back and same time, same lighting and everything, and there's not a creature there. This area is active more so to me than other people. Other researchers say they just like me. I get more vocals and little hellos, like 3 little pieces of pea gravel hitting the where my head is in the camper trailer in Smith Park, and it just addles me and gets me so puzzled when I open the door to see what's there. I can't even think to move my hand over a little bit and hit the outside lights. It just, I guess they won't let me know they're there. But up where William is I've camped out up there, and in the 28-foot toy holler there when Tanya Knight, before my research partner, before she passed, we had encounters on tracks and stuff, and it's just like across the mountain from where William and Ground Zero is.
Right.
So the activity is definitely there. I'm not a skeptic. I'm not a believer. I know for a fact.
Right. Absolutely.
And the integrity of William and Stephen it ain't part. It's 100%.
I appreciate that, as does Stephen as well. Like I said, there may be other better researchers, but there's not anybody that works any harder than what we do. And my research partner, Stephen, has got the credibility more so than anybody that you've ever met, as far as whenever he talks about this, folks automatically know he's a favorite son of this area, as is Keith, because not only do the people like him, but the Bigfoot like him as well. So with both of these guys right here really helps our research a lot.
So was this particular photo captured in the daytime or at night?
It's captured in the daytime. My last actual 7 sightings of Bigfoot have been in the daytime. You know, you see so much on these TV shows where these people, they're out there at night and doing the different deals. And some of the methods they use, guys, they do answer calls. They have different ways that you can communicate and they'll communicate back. But again, it's not always the night thing that gets the thing done. They are very, very curious about us, even though they may have night vision. But still, they come out there. And again, my last 7 sightings have been in the daytime. So I'm not necessarily. And when I go out in the daytime, I'm not necessarily dressed in camouflage. You'll see me with an orange Keith Crabtree camp out shirt or a chartreuse picture of a Bigfoot or something like that, and Steven as well. And we laugh about it, but. You know, you're not going to, when you get out there, they know you're there. You're not going to hide yourself camouflage from them. Anybody that thinks they are, I don't fault them. But like I said, you're looking at a creature with nostrils, as big as the mouth of this microphone right there. So he's going to smell you. He's going to recognize that you're there. So again, they just, they do what they do, and we just try to adapt. And so with this one right here, he knows who I am. I believe that with all my heart. I believe he knows who Steven is. I've got one of there for him walking down the hill there where he's turning back, just looking at me, just like that right there. And that's, but Blackie's, he's a very, very, let's say, very, very beautiful animal. You can see just how big he is. And that's what you're not ready for when you're looking at Bigfoot. You're not ready for the colossal size of what you're looking at. You thought, oh my gosh, it's much, much bigger than what I ever thought it was.
And what I like about this photo is it addresses 2 myths about Bigfoot research. One, you can't get any pictures from a game cam. And then 2, you can't get any pictures in the daytime. So this kind of knocks those 2 myths out of the park. Let's go out to Anchorage, Alaska, and Paul Ayotte. Looking at this picture, what are your thoughts?
I think that's a big Sasquatch. I was looking at that. That thing is wide. That's I'm a linebacker on any NFL team that I could start off any time. That's something else.
Matt Slater out in Quincy, Washington. What do you think?
It's pretty huge. I do have a question. Now that is at the apple feeding station, correct?
Right.
So we do have a video on the channel that shows the apple station. Has he ever destroyed it when there's not been any apples in there?
He hasn't really destroyed it. He's taken the pipe and actually just flipped the pipe upwards, but we have it wired into the tree. So when there's not anything there and he reaches, a lot of times it's not there. If there's not any, say, some of the babies get to it or something like that, I see he'll flip it almost all the way up like there. Like if you got a package going to the mailman, you flip that little flag up there on your mailbox. It's about the same way. He's like, okay, more apples, please. And he'll do the same thing with a peanut butter jar. He'll leave the lid from the peanut butter jar onto the certain stump. And then when we get there and it's there, and he'll pry it open with his teeth like a bottle pop opener. And you find that, then it's time for more peanut butter. Like I say, he does the same thing there with those apples.
Oh, cool.
All right. So Keith, while we're waiting for that, let's talk a little bit about the Legend of Boggy Creek. I've been waiting to ask you these questions. Now's a good time. So how did you first get involved in that project?
Well, it was Uncle Smokey that asked me to be in it. And it's kind of comical the way he approached me. And I was still running pretty wild from just getting back from Vietnam. And it was in the evening. And he said, Keith, he said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm gassing up and fixing to go get me a case of beer and ride the back roads. And he said, are you not working nowhere? I said, no, I finished the job up last week, and it'll be a month before we go back on another job. He said, well, I need you to do something for me. I said, okay. And he said, be at the house about 4:30 in the morning. I said, I better cancel out, go and get this case of beer, and then go home and go to bed for 4:30. He said, well, that's up to you, but I'd like you to get there just about daylight. I said, all right, Uncle Smokey. And he was walking off, and I said, by the way, what I'm going to be doing? He said, you're going to be a monster in a movie.
Wow.
So next morning, I was down there at daylight, and him and Travis and Charles B. Pierce and down there in the edge of the lake, boiling tracks for like they're going to go set the trap line. And that's how I got into the movie.
Did you ever have any idea or thought that the movie would become as big as it did?
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Deep down inside, I said, this is going to go big. I really did. And I ain't even going to get into the contract and some releases and all that, but it followed me around. I went to North Dakota and checked in a motel in the name Crabtree. I went into the restaurant to eat supper, and the waitress walked over and she said, "Are you a Crabtree?" I said, "Well, yeah." And the clerk and them had done discussed it with the restaurant staff. And she said, "Were you in the movie?" I said, "Yes, ma'am. I was the monster." And the next thing I know, I'm swamped around and everybody. The premiere at the Paramount Theater, which is now the Perot Theater, it was awesome. It was packed house for I forget how long. And Charles B. Pierce moved the movie around by himself. And when the first little bit of money he got, he bought him a Corvette. And him and his kids, and Corvette's a two-seater, and that little cubby hole behind the seats, he'd put two of them kids there and let the oldest one sit in that seat, and he'd drive at night and go collect the money from the theaters until they finally got a distributor on it sometimes later. I don't even remember who the distributor was or anything, but it went big fast.
So that movie, The Legend of Boggy Creek, I've said this before, it took something that was generally regional and made it become national and then international.
Oh, it went worldwide. I have people contact me from Australia, China, and I've even had the pleasure of meeting Igor Birchby. He's a big name in the Russian and everything. It's like the Cersei house where we shot this new horror movie that I have got a scene in it for Mitch Lang, and it's world famous. That movie is just absolutely I believe it's still the top crossover movie into the horror movie industry that ever happened. It was listed as a documentary starting out, and when it says this is a true story, and it was, and it's so fast.
This movie here that Keith is talking about actually influenced the making of the Blair Witch Project, and we know how big that was.
Right.
And they readily admit, yes, we were influenced here by the Legend of Boggy Creek. And again, from that right there, for the way that I've actually walked those same hills that Keith walked in a monster suit before, fishing before. And it's not easy, folks, just when you got on tennis shoes. But he's out there in that monster suit, and the way that he did it, he and I have often laughed about that. But again, it's the way he played the creature. There was two men that actually played the creature in there. But Keith, I think, had more of the roles. There's another man named Faubus Griffin, who was a tackle for the semi-pro Texarkana Titans football team. And Keith he was just so agile coming out of the military and everything like that. He didn't, man. He looked like a pro. He could have played football too if he'd have wanted to. But again, that's the way it was. And around here, I waited 6 hours to see that show down at the Paramount, like he's saying. And it was wrapped around at least 3 city blocks. People want to get in and see it, and you've never heard such gasping and crying and everything else like that whenever the creature was on there. So again, it really scared me to death, and it scared a lot of people as well. But like I said, it was on every drive-in in the whole United States, just about it. So again, it really put Texarkana on the map. It put Fouke on the map. I was in Disney World Orlando. Somebody asked me, said, "Well, how close are you to Fouke?" Had another lady up there in Alaska where Daniel lives. She used to go on a cruise up there, and she goes, Texarkana. That's close to Fouke. And I said, yeah, and we're talking about 4,000 miles away and 1,500 miles away of those two destinations. So
the movie actually come out almost simultaneously with Star Trek, and Star Trek didn't really it almost shut Star Trek down.
Wow.
And we're talking about William Shatner, Star Trek,
Right.
And Then after about a year, Star Trek took off and caught up and passed, But the Legend of Boggy Creek was nothing to, laugh about at the time. It was a big moneymaker. And my information is that it was 50 million in the first 6 months back then. That's before it crossed over into the horror film industry.
And it's a true story, and it magnifies what kind of cryptid activity is in this part of the state of Arkansas. And what a fantastic, unique research area this is. So let's go ahead and bring up the next photo. William, why don't you go ahead and take us in with this one?
Okay, this right here that you're looking at, it's a little bit further away, but it's further away for a reason. This is called the Gugway. And I was down there, actually, I think it was March the 2nd, 2000, right after Keith's camp out down there. It was on Sunday afternoon. I go to church on Sunday afternoon. I had seen a structure there that had been built that I hadn't recognized before. So on the way back, I parked on the side of the road and got out there and walked down to where the structure was sitting there looking. It was a big X structure. And as I'm sitting there, I see something running up out of the bottoms right there. At first, I thought it was a hog. We have a lot of wild hogs down here. A lot of them are black in color. And I thought, oh, man, that's a wild hog right there. And then whenever I realized it wasn't, I said, that's a Bigfoot right there. So I have my phone out. I start trying to chase and intercept this Bigfoot. He stops walking, stops and starts walking, stops on all fours. He's coming up there, like I said, running on all fours as he is. Whenever he starts walking, I start trying to catch up, and then he kind of goes behind some brush. So I'm sitting there again, waiting on that. You can see right there, that creature right there is behind a log. That log has got some of those, what's the octopus type or spider roots where he's got his head stuck in there. And he's waiting on me to walk by there. He does not mean me good fortune. And I happened to sit there and look at that, and he looked back over his shoulder, and I thought, oh my gosh, he's got a partner with him. So I had my phone already out. I took 3 pictures, and then I took off running up the hill. I called one of my friends who's a Native American. I said, are you familiar with Gugway? And he goes, yeah, I am. And so we talked about, he said, well, did he look back over his shoulder? And I said, yeah, he did. I said, how'd you know? He said, because he had a hunting partner. I said, he was fixing to get you good. So anyway, here's the funny thing about that. This is not but 60 yards off of an Arkansas state highway right there. And so, everybody thinks sometimes you're in the woods. Some of the times those things, they do just what they want to do because they can do what they want to do. This creature here is known sometimes as a whistling bear. It's generally a 3-toed track, which is one of the characteristics of Fouke monster is that it was supposedly a 3-toed track. So, if it was something there that actually had crossbred with the animals that are down here already, or whether it was one on its own. But it definitely got my attention. My buddy wanted to go back the next day, and I couldn't go back because I had post-traumatic stress. I told him, I just can't do it. Well, coincidentally, my son had bought me a 45-70 rifle, which will shoot lengthways through one of these things. And so me and Randy Crawford went back down there, and when we did, then we took about 50 or 60 pictures, compared them side by side with 2 computer monitors to make sure, it wasn't pareidolia, which I knew it wasn't because I saw him actually running on all fours. And so we paired up there and realized that thing was there. I went back and then found a couple 17-inch tracks. I actually found a hunting blind that they get inside, and when the deer and the hogs run by, they actually jump out, crack them either on the back, break their back, or else they'll break their legs, and then that's how they do their hunting and their eating. But that's right as it happened right there with my cell phone. That's not a game camera photo. That's my cell phone. So we're lucky that it's not shaking back and forth even as we're watching right now, because it's very, very unnerved with this creature right here.
All right, let's go to Paul up in Anchorage, Alaska. Paul, taking a look at this photo, what are your thoughts? What stands out?
Now, I don't. How fast, when this thing was running, how fast did you say it was moving?
Paul, it was really incredible for something to be on on all fours and to be able to cover the much ground that he was. I actually think he was running towards me. I think he had seen me and set me up. At first, I thought he was just running for the heck of it, but I actually think he was running towards me to get set up. But he's running. I promise you, even through these woods and this brush and everything, 25 to 30 miles an hour, and that's not a joke. That's not an overestimate. I mean, he is hooking. And so again, that's Bigfoot is incredibly fast as well, but that's the way he was running. And so I tried to intercept him thinking it was a Bigfoot. And then all of a sudden I realized I'd made a grave error, and no pun intended, which could have been, but that I had made a grave error in identifying this animal. You can see he has a snout. Gugway also have the teeth, the canine style teeth all the way through his mouth. And so again, they have claws as well as with that 3-toe track. Whereas Bigfoot has fingernails, Gugway has claws. And so again, he didn't mean me He didn't mean anything well, but thank goodness I'm here with everybody tonight on that right there. And that is a photo that's from my cell phone. And so it's not any kind of case of where it's mistaken identity. I'd seen him right there running. So.
Okay, thanks.
So Matt, up in Washington State, what are your thoughts on this photo?
Well, I mean, it's certainly dangerous. You kind of explained what a gugway is there for a second. I mean, how distinctly different from a Sasquatch is it? Is it like a hybrid?
And that's what we don't really know yet. You know, the thing is, we have to base everything we have on what evidence and DNA is available. When there's certainly not much, certainly for a gugway right there. We have a lot of sightings of that right there. Probably the most famous there is called the Beast of the Seven Chutes. You can look that up on the internet. They'll show you a picture of one again. Like I said, he's got a snout and he's apparently has a dog underneath his arm. If I'd have seen that, he would have been the last Beast of Seven Chutes because I'm a dog lover. But so he's sitting there, like I said, and he's got that snout and those eyes and the way he looks. And whenever he turns his head, he tilts his ears back just a little bit and looks back like, "Are you ready?" And like I said, I had 3 pictures, and you can see the first pose there. That's not it. That's the second pose I got. But the 3 poses are all 3 actually different that he's moved his head. So again, that's my first encounter with one of them, and hopefully my last encounter with a gugway.
Yeah, it sounds like people are going to go out there looking for Sasquatch. They need to be extremely prepared in case they run into one of these.
Exactly. You know, I don't go out in the woods without any kind of protection anyway, not to kill Bigfoot, but because of the animals that we have around here. And had I known that was there, like I said, I couldn't go back the next day. I wanted to go. I had only a 40 caliber Glock. Man, that one could do it, just scratch mosquito bites if you hit him. But when I had that 45-70, it became a different story for him, you know.
So Keith, have you come across a gugway like this before? Is it, tell us.
Well, up close to Lake Norrell in central Arkansas, I was camped out with some other researchers, and the speed that William's talking about is unmatched. One came through camp, and it came through so fast, I heard it over here, and then 150 yards was over here like 1, 2. And the next morning I had a huge handprint on the side of the truck, and I really felt like it might have been what I've heard. I've never seen a dog man, and I've never seen Bigfoot out in the field up close. I've had many encounters, but I didn't think I would. I don't think they're dealing with just a Bigfoot up there at Lake Norrell. I think if a gugway and the dog man are anywhere near similar, that's probably what's up there at Lake Norrell.
Yeah.
So, and then the speed, I don't think a quarter horse could outrun one.
Wow.
I don't think. When it come through, the whole truck shook, and I knew it was something massive. And I was in the back in the bed of the truck with a camper shell and tailgate down and the hatch on the camper shell up, sleeping on a mat with a fan blowing on me. And when I heard it, I looked out there, and then I heard a limb, and I'm talking 1, 2, from way over here to way over here. Ain't no horse that fast either. So I believe my friends up there are dealing with a dog man, or what William just described as a gugway.
Copy that. So moving on to the next photo. Now, this next one I find extremely fascinating. I've actually called it the Captain Caveman photo.
Yeah.
William, go ahead and bring us into this one. This is, tell us about the circumstances this was taken. What time of, it looks like a nighttime picture. So what time of night was it? Give us some info on this one. And Matt and Paul, I really want to hear you guys chime in on this one as well.
This is really strange. I showed this to Keith within a week or two after we got it. Steve and I have cameras there, and what we do with cameras, we don't tie them on trees. We put them in brush tops to hide them, so that when Bigfoot walks by, then it gets his picture. And it's really funny to see the reactions sometimes. But as you can see, you'll see that creature on the left-hand side. It looks like he's underneath that tree, but he's not. He's 20 feet on the other side of that tree. He is every bit probably of 1,200 pounds. He's well over 10 foot tall. That little bitty brush on the right-hand side, there's what we call devil monkeys. There's 4 devil monkeys in that tree right there, and they're all about 5.5 to 6 feet tall. They are extremely avoiding this thing. What we were finding was that every day that we would go down there, our cameras would be turned down so that we couldn't get a picture of this thing. The next day, Stephen would go back. Stephen lives very close, and he would go back and he said, William, look here. It would be turned back down again or be turned away. So this happened 5 consecutive days. Well, the last time it had been chewed up, totally chewed up. Every piece of glass was broken. The plastic of the casing was broken. The latch that held the batteries was broken. Like I said, there's all kinds of teeth marks on this thing, not scratch marks, but teeth marks. And so when we get up there, we go check the spy camera. If we've got a camera on one place, we've got another camera taking a picture of that right there. And this is you can see where the light is hitting the log right there. Again, he's 20 foot on the other side of that log over there.
So pardon the interruption, is he down a slope or standing in a ditch?
It's a very slight grade going downward. And so where he is, like I say, he's about where he is on the other side of that log that you see there that's got the light on it, and the devil monkeys there. He's 20 feet on the other side of that. And now there's still that much of him showing. That one that we saw a while ago with Blackie, he's every bit as big as Blackie. I actually think he's probably bigger than Blackie. And you can see he doesn't just have the one color. He's got a little bit of white on him. He's got a little brown on him. And but he's just massive, truly just massive. And that's as it happens right there, folks. That's right as he walks up and when that camera can get his picture. And so again, I've got something I call the camera caper, where we were catching where he was turning the camera over. And sure enough, that's what we got right there. So really, really, like I said, I came back with that. I showed this with not only with Keith, but several other people there, and they're like, oh man, just that's incredible to see the size of that joker. But it really is. He's the only one I've got up there that I know of that's compatible to the size of Blackie.
So round about what time of night was this taken?
This is probably about 2:15 to 2:30 at night when they were running through there, and it was on a nightly basis. But we weren't getting him on the other cameras till we stepped up the camera that has the spy part that we call the spy camera. It's not actually a spy camera; it's another camera. But that's what we do, because if they'll get too involved with one camera. And when they do, they'll forget, and they'll get the picture from the other camera, just like Bigfoot does us. We had some that they were out there and they had gotten separated. And so what they'll do, they'll tree knock or they'll start chattering. And while you're looking at them, whatever animal they have with their troop that's gotten separated, then it will have time to walk across and then get back with the group. And so that's kind of what happened right here, except for me right here. That dude right there is just standing there. And like I said, he walks up, and when I find that I don't even have to blow that up on my thumbnails whenever I have that from my spot. I can see the head just plainly, So again, that's one of the biggest ones that we have up there that I have seen. And you can see this. He's actually a cone head, but his cone head is thick through this right here. It's not a real sharp point like you'd see like on a pencil or something like that. His head is just massive.
So Keith, looking at this creature in this photo, have you ever come across one that looks like this, or is this something unique?
The experience I had when I actually seen one at a distance, it appeared to be about 8 foot tall, and that was on, let's see, Kelly Bayou West Fork, was a scrawny one. And then when I was in Montana up there, the one that I had a 40-minute staring contest with would make him look like a baby. But that one is huge for down this area.
Yeah.
I've got glimpses. We have a picture I have 3 different separate chicken houses and chicken pens on our property. And we've got a dark spot at 4.5 foot tall, and what looks like the head at 8 foot above the one south side chicken pen. And then out in the trees, there's a silhouette in the head and little eyes of one about 12 foot up. But they're not thick like that. They're not the massive weight. And when I look at that picture there, I see a limb coming off to the right side of that creature there, and it looks massive. Now, I could be wrong about looking at that picture right there, but sitting right here and I looked at it good, that's a little better than looking at it on the Williams laptop and on his phone. But I can tell that one's huge.
Those devil monkeys, they're a species that we have here that, again, science won't recognize it. They won't recognize any kind of primate here in the United States as far as that goes. But they kind of have a face and a body like a baboon or a mandrill. And they're average about 6 foot tall, like I said. And they're in that brush top right there that's on the right-hand side. And like I said, they will not move. They're afraid to move because of that big rascal over there. So I think they show pretty good judgment in that part there, because he's 10.5 foot tall and he'll weigh 1,200 pounds. I'm not exaggerating on you a bit. Like I said, that made me uneasy, and also Stephen uneasy when we got that picture right there.
Going back out to the West Coast, our West Coast hosts, guys, taking a look at this picture. Have you seen any other photos of a cryptid that looks like this?
I have not. That's a big boy over there. And, he's smart, turning the camera down and stuff. Just eventually going to get, like he did in this photo, he messed up. But, that's a big guy.
You're a big man, Paul, from what I'm seeing right here. And like I said, how much bigger would you consider him being than what you are right now?
Well, he's got enough lard to fry all our ears. I think I wouldn't want to run into him. I'll tell you that right now. Yeah, that's a big animal.
He is. He's got about a 22-inch track as well. Like I said, he slid in the mud there a little bit. He's got about a 22-inch track as well. So.
Yeah, that's big.
Definitely don't want to run into him at 2:00 in the morning.
No, definitely not. Okay, let's move on to our next one.
Okay, this is a picture that I got this year, or actually 2023. I'm sorry, right there in January. We had gone to the ARC exhibit there in Kentucky, and so I thought, well, I'll just leave my camera out here. I actually got lazy, just to be honest with you, because by the time I go up there and walk down to where that was, I was going to be just slap wore out. It had been raining some down here a whole lot, and then of course you got a lot of slipping and sliding when you got 2 metal knees and you're 200 and almost 280 pounds. So I left it down there, bro. But that right there is as he walks up, and there's actually one behind that you can't see as well. He walks up, he knows exactly where that camera is, and he sits there and just stares. And the funny thing about this rascal right here is he has blue eyes. I've never seen a blue-eyed Bigfoot before, but he actually has blue eyes. Everyone I've ever seen has got black eyes or brown eyes. They come, they stare into my camera all the time. But he's sitting there staring right there. And like I said, I had a friend come down with somebody that we've spoken about, a lady named Christy Sci-Fi. We call Christy, and he came down. He's a Bigfoot artist. He come down. He said, "Will, you ever seen anything like this?" And he had a picture of a Bigfoot, and it had blue eyes. I said, "Man," I said, "you're not going to believe it." I said, "I got a picture of one just this January that actually has blue eyes." He said, "We have them that look like that all the time, and they live down there in southern Louisiana. I think they call it what, Keith Sukaloo, is that what they call theirs or something like that?"
I'd say a little east of the center of Louisiana, kind of north of St. Francisville, and it's pretty swampy in that area. I've been down there numerous times back in the pipeline industry, and familiar with the area where Christie's, as you say, ground zero, where her ground zero is down there on that. And they're very interactive with a resident there, and there's no doubt in my mind about him. And a good sketch artist drew a sketch of him for the owner of the property there, and he said it looked so much like him. And I'm going to tell you, he's a handsome devil, is all I'm going to say.
Look at the thickness of the back of that head. I'm sorry, Keith.
Yeah, he's not what you would expect to see in a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And he's not one of the mean, would hurt you ones. He's very passive and laid back. They have so much contact with him that it's almost to the point of questioning, is it real? But then, I don't question these people because their stories are credible, and they don't get out of the realm of being possibility, because I hear stories over in Horseshoe Lake, which I found out is Teague Lake. I talked to William about that. And the woman that was telling me about it, when she was 3 years old, her grandfather would put her in a boat, and they'd paddle out there and leave stuff for them, and especially garlic. So when it comes to down there in the swamps of Louisiana, and I'm wanting to say, I've seen pictures of him, I'm going to say he's about 7.5 to 8 foot tall. He's not a huge one. And he's got a little bit different coloration, maybe a little bit towards blonde around the face, according to what I've been explained and stuff and told about him, and then a little bit darker. And kind of goes back to the Kelly Bayou sighting that I had. I thought that was a dead cedar tree stump broke off, and it was odd. So the coloration that they depicted of the one there matched what I had seen in 2019. So it ain't a question about they ain't all the same.
And you can see, like I said, the thickness of the back of that neck and that head. Like I said, he doesn't have that sharp point on there right there. Man, he is just massive.
Yeah.
And that camera's still in the same place. We've gotten some other pictures this year, but they're all smaller than what that Bigfoot is right there. That dude right there is Daddy of the Woods right there, I think. Again, he's got a couple behind him right there. But anyway, I was glad to get that picture as well. Just have, when you get one like that, again, during the daytime. And that was during January. It wasn't really cold down here that much as such. But like I said, they do get around, and you're not going to get pictures if you're sitting in there as a rule, even though I have them from game cam. If you're not out there in the woods or putting stuff in the woods, just sitting there on the couch and expecting something else to happen. So we work really hard putting our cameras out. We really do. And like I said, me and Daniel were up there today, man, we slipped and slid and everything, but we found 2 tracks, look like about 17 to 18 inch tracks up there. So again, these creatures, that tends to be about average for them right there. But the 10 footers up there, the 2 10 footers that we sequenced last show there and this show right here, they're definitely the exception to the rule.
Right. Matt Slater, you ever heard of a blue-eyed Bigfoot?
No, not specifically a blue-eyed one. I know that, their eyes can glow, but I've only ever heard of yellow and red. Never seen a blue-eyed one. That's amazing.
Yeah, very amazing. Paul,
Yeah, that's something else. It takes a whole bunch of different, I guess, there must be a lot out there, to have different traits and everything. That's something else.
Yeah, it is. Great photo, very unique photo. It was definitely a good catch. So moving on to the next one, William, you're going to have to give us some good image interpretation on this.
Okay, this right here, like I said, it's if you take a look there, you'll see a little black body there, a little face there. You'll see 2 eyes that are glowing, little button eyes. You'll see a little turned up nose right there. You'll see kind of a straight across, almost like a cat mouth right there, just straight. But then underneath there, you'll look and you'll see a little 3-fingered hand there coming out of that brush. My wife went up there when Stephen and I had a big one named Brownie. He had jumped across the trail and we almost missed him. And so, of course, it intrigued my wife, and she's always wanted to see one, and she's very intuitive of that right there. So she brought her digital camera up there while Steve and I were resetting the SD cards on these cameras. And so she goes down to about the very same place where I first seen Blackie down there. And so she's sitting there looking into the woods. She puts the camera up, and I see her, take one picture. She comes back to Stephen and I, and we go back to Texarkana. So as we're on the way back, she's looking through her camera, and she says, well, what is this? So I pulled over to the side of the road and I just began to laugh. And I said, well, you want good news or better news? She goes, give me the good news. And I said, well, you've got a mama Bigfoot right there in that picture. And she goes, a mama Bigfoot? I said, yeah. She goes, what's the better news? I said, there's 2 babies there, one at her right knee and one at her left knee. And this is the one at her right knee right there. He was just a little bit more out of the brush, therefore a little bit more photographable. But it was funny. She's like, you and Steven said, y'all been Bigfoot hunting for 30 years. Said, I go out here 6 minutes, I've got my first picture. If you'll ask Keith, that's exactly what she would say too. So, and that's but anyway, that is actually a baby Bigfoot. We have a breeding population here, folks. Bigfoot population it's growing. They're here. People that don't want to believe it, I wish they did, but I'm not going to. If these pictures can't convince, seeing's believing. If these pictures can't convince you and the stories can't convince you, then hopefully you'll have your own kind of sighting later on, and you'll be able to swing towards our side of what is. But like I said, this one is actually real. You're going to see a couple more babies here in some of the pictures of what we got. This dude's standing right there by himself. I guess he's looking at my wife right there, but you see the eyes, the little sparkle in his eyes, and they're so, like I said, they almost look cute enough to hug, but that's not something that I want to try with mama back there with him either. But that's actually a picture that my wife got, and it's live and it's during the daytime as well.
All right. Very interesting. So for the sake of time, let's move on to the
Okay.
next photo. And again, William, give us image interpretation on this one. Tell us what we're looking at.
Okay, folks, if you will, as you look at this picture, kind of tilt your heads to the left at about 15 degrees, and you'll be right at the same plane as what this is. This is another baby. He knows exactly where my camera is. He walks up there, and if you look, you can see kind of a white area there on that body. That's his eyes. He's staring. You can see the irises. You see the pupils. He's staring right into the camera. You see that little cone head that he's got right there. And like I said, he's not, but from where that picture was, he's not even 4 feet tall, but he's staring right at the camera right there. I go up there, and this is one of the first pictures that pops up. I can't help but die laughing because of their curiosity. Now, they can zap your camera and make your cameras where your picture come out blurry. But this right here, I think at that age right there, I don't think they actually realize the powers that they have of infrasound. And so he just sits there and just stares at it. And that's been one of my most commented about photographs that I've got, because you can't deny that. You see little white rings around the eyes. That is actually a baby Bigfoot. So again, that's 2 out of the last 2 pictures that you've seen, proving that we have a breedable population up here.
Keith Crabtree, have you ever encountered any juveniles?
Yes. Tanya and I, up in the Washita Mountains, not far from ground zero is for William and Stephen. She got a photo. You got to understand, we're not professional photographers, and you're nervous when you take the picture. And the juvenile, we were in what we called our play area, and we had discovered, and it was an opening up there right close to the river. And this juvenile has got that head out around that tree watching what she's doing. And I want to say it was probably about 4 foot tall. And Tanya hadn't even noticed. 2 trees over, about 8 foot up, was Mama. And then I really got nervous. Just across the river on a rock ledge was a cougar. So, yeah, there's the juveniles up there in ground zero, and numerous audio wood knocks, rock clacks and stuff up there, and a few structures. But the juveniles, they reproduce just almost like humans.
And then too, the mamas, they're a healthy mama Bigfoot is almost like a doe deer. Seems like down here that she will have a set of twins just about every time if she's healthy. And Steve and I have been trying to research about the time of birth, and we're getting a lot of pictures of babies already, a foot and a half tall, sometimes at the end of November and the 1st of December. So I think they're actually, their timeline is, it's like, unlike deer, the deer, tend to give birth later on, like right now at this time of year, March, April, May, but theirs tend to be early in the year right there. But again, there's a breeding population. You get 2 every time, and you're going to have a population continues to grow.
All right. Let's move on to the next one. Now, this photo here is probably one of the most freaky that I've seen. And again, William, why don't you introduce us to this photo? Tell us what time of night this was snapped, and take it from there.
Okay. This right here is actually a photo from my last dental visit. No, I'm kidding. It's not. What this actually is, it's from about 12:30 at night right here. And this Bigfoot, we had the camera there. He would pick up my camera and he would look at it. And then whenever he would set it down, it would be about 4 or 5 degrees to the left than where I'd actually put it. And I'm like, doggone, what's doing that? And I told Steven, so I got me a limb. I would set it there. I would point it in the same direction as what the lens is. We would come back and it would be turned about the same time again. So this time when he picks it up, he turns it around backwards. And so I'm looking at it. I'm trying to figure out what the picture actually comes in sideways. And I'm like, what in the world is that? I have no idea. And luckily I took it and I went into the bathroom there. I had it on a tablet. And went in there and took that picture, and coincidentally, I had it set just right. And so whenever I pulled it up, there it is. That Bigfoot is trying to get that camera, and actually he's almost succeeding getting the camera in his mouth. You can see that it's actually hitting his nose and twisting his nose around. Now you see 4 big block teeth in front. You see a space. That space is called the primate space. And then you see a canine. The canine's not long like a baboon's or anything. That canine is barely just past the line of the other teeth right there, but he's actually right there. A Bigfoot tends to bite everything they can get their teeth around. I showed the other night. I showed a baseball bat. I have one that's actually bitten the baseball bat. I have a sardine can that he bit into. Again, I already mentioned the peanut butter lids, but that's Bigfoot right here. Like I said, he's biting my camera for whatever reason. And I was lucky enough to get a picture of him. And again, you can see that he doesn't look like the photo that the man in Harriet Henderson's when he had it redrawn, where he's all snarling at you, everything. He's got a set of teeth almost like about what we do, just the block teeth.
Matt Slater.
Yeah, it's that's interesting to see. An actual. I mean, it's a dental photo of a Sasquatch, and they got the incisors, the canines, almost just like every primate that you can go find. The tear food, grind food. Naturally, they're gonna try and tear up your cameras every time.
They do a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Paul Ayot up in Alaska. What do you think about this photo?
I believe that was Mrs. Bigfoot, and she was blowing someone a kiss. That's what
She had on there written, "Send this to Paul when you meet him." That's for you.
All right.
No, but it's actually, like I said, and it's probably about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. They were coming through. This is during March of 2018. And of those 31 days, about 27 of those days, we got a picture of Bigfoot, about 27 days in a row. And this is one of them that we got right here, as well as another one later on where the photo, he's actually got the camera inside his mouth and it's shooting outward. And you can see that. But again, you see it's not like what people have described, as having the terrible fangs and all that stuff like that. This is Bigfoot. And you're actually looking inside his mouth right there. So again, very fortunate to get that picture. That picture was supposed to go into the Arkansas Museum up there at Little Rock, and then we had COVID, and they shut that down. So I'm hoping that they have it again. I've got some more pictures that will be going, 5 pictures called something Unnatural Arkansas. So again, Arkansas is it's ground zero for Bigfoot. It's the Mecca, starting with the Legend of Boggy Creek and going there.
Keith, have you ever seen something like this?
I actually have a set of teeth, a picture of a set of teeth on my telephone that my dentist had found, and they're not human teeth, and I don't recognize them, and he don't recognize them. And I see this picture here, and they're a combination of mashers and cutters together, and he had my dentist has those teeth. I took the pictures of them in his hand, and he's asking me, what are they? I said, well, you're the dental expert. And then I took and I passed them around to some of my fellow hunters and stuff that know the deer, the hog teeth, the wolf teeth, coyote teeth, and this is none of them. And I look at this picture good right here, and I'm thinking, geez, now there's a possibility there. So I'm going to ask him to get me a DNA sample to send to find somebody who knows where to send it to.
Right.
Yeah, my son is a dentist, and he showed that to him, and he very much alerted me about that primate space, which is cool, because we don't know for sure what Bigfoot is, but it's been rumored to be a primate. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it's awful coincidental that we have something called the primate space, and then we got a face like that right there as well.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Go ahead, William.
Okay, guys, I got this one right here on Halloween in 2019. Right there, this one is 50 yards off the road. Again, like I said, it's down in that area, about the same area that I got the Gugway, about 100 yards from. But this is actually a Bigfoot right here. And if you look on this, in the middle of this photo, and you can see on Mama's chest, she's got a baby there. So again, here's another baby right here, breeding population. And you can see how much bigger it is there in October, as opposed to what the ones that we showed there in the January and March there. But you can see, but she's sitting there, and I hear her over there moving around. I don't know if she was in the tree to start or she was just hiding on me, but she's there around the tree, and all of a sudden I start getting pine cones whizzing by my head. And then at first I thought it might have been sparrows that I was missing. And finally I saw one go by, and where it landed, I'm like, no, that's got to be a Bigfoot. Then I get a stick goes by my head pretty soon. I'm looking at that and I try to peek out, and but I'm maybe doing it wrong. Maybe I should have just jerked out, but I just peeked out real slow trying to see what it was. I think that gave her time to duck back behind the tree. So finally, she gets very angry with me for not leaving. And again, I think the reason was what you're seeing there on her chest. She's got that baby. So finally, she's. And whenever she did, I thought, oh, this is fixing to escalate a little bit. So, but I wanted that picture. So I get my cell phone out and I wait and I step out and I start walking away. And then coincidentally, I just throw my hand up like this and take a quick picture like that. I get back to my vehicle and I forget that it's there. It's like 3 days later before I remember, like, dummy, you've got a picture here you need to look at. And sure enough, that Bigfoot is right there on the edge of that picture. And that's a mama. And like I said, I showed that picture there on the Travel Channel, on the show that I had there on the Travel Channel. But that is actually a mama. And that's actually that baby right there. And there may even be another behind that tree, but that's all that we can see. But again, for sure, solidifying the fact that we've got Bigfoot here, that Bigfoot are actually reproducing. And there's one right there.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's move on to our final ground zero picture. Take it away.
All right. This right here is like I said, folks, it's probably the best picture of Bigfoot I've ever seen gotten. I have it so many people that comment, I can actually see his face. I can actually see his brow ridge. I can actually see his nose. I can actually see his ears. This one here probably has 2 babies with him. One of them has the hand in the middle of the chest, and it looks to be there's one right there on the scruff of his neck. Daniel and I are there in the woods there. It's, I think, April the 22nd, 3 years ago or 2 years ago. And so we're there, and we had been there trying what we do. We take the grid pictures, and we were hearing some noises, but we weren't seeing anything. Of course, ground zero's pretty well grown up there. So anyway, Daniel has a really fine camera. And so I had the gun and Daniel had the camera. And that way you don't want to be distracted. You want to concentrate on one or the other for sure. So Daniel's sitting there and he takes some pictures. And so we walk up to the truck right there and we're looking right there. We're still in the field right there. We're not but 50 yards from where my truck is. And all of a sudden we look and we see this, oh my gosh. So Daniel had already lined up a professional photographer from Anchorage, Alaska. I'm sorry. And so he sent it to her. She did it. She ran it through the different screens. It does a laser trace on there and you can see what's actually there. And she's like, yeah, that thing is actually there. I said, we know it's there because we're still here in the field. So again, it's one of the best pictures. I went back 2 days later. I wasn't about to go down there right there with her being there. And plus I wasn't prepared. I didn't have a full meter stick. Well, I went back with what's called a meter stick. It has a tape measure on one side and that thing is 10.5 foot tall. Again, it's got the 22-inch tracks too. And that dude is a whopper. So that's the second Bigfoot over 10 foot that I have seen down at ground zero. But again, one of the best pictures that I've ever seen, and just very, very feel very, very fortunate to be part of it. Like I said, Daniel and I are standing side by side, and we tend to share everything we got, just like we do with Keith. Whatever Keith wants of mine, he's got, and we share that as well to kind of bring to folks awareness. Folks, Bigfoot is real. You've been saying it's not. There's no pictures. The people on the professional TV shows are going to say, well, there's been no photographic evidence. Oh, really? I've got 100 pictures of Bigfoot on my cell phone. Not just me, but I've got some that some other people shared with him, but I've got 90 that Stephen and I have taken by ourselves. Bigfoot is there, and we get them with our cell phone. We get them with the digital phones, and we get them with these game cameras. So again, to say that right there, and don't say that bragging, because man, they got more to do with it than we do, as far as from being there. But folks, see there, that Bigfoot is real. When you look at that, we went down and I took that picture whenever I did the meter stick. That Bigfoot is not in that picture. I've got the very same angle, the very same place we stood, and that Bigfoot is not in that follow-up picture that I took.
Right. Yeah, that is a very, very lucky photo that we were able to capture that day. Gentlemen, we're about down to 33 minutes left, so let's move straight on to our next category of photos to analyze, and that'll be tree structures. So as we go into the tree structure subject, William, tell us about tree structures and fact versus fiction. There's different ideas of what they're for, but in your analysis and your observation, what have you determined?
Tree markers to me, I think they've got several meanings for them. Number one, I think it's a method of communication with the other Bigfoot that are coming through there, whether it's, hey, take this trail, or whether or not you're getting on my trail, you're getting in my territory, you need to get out of here. Number two, sometimes I think it's a show of strength to show just how robust they are. I said I was a power lifter. Some of these structures that are made of trees, me and my son both being power lifters and above average, I guess you would say, as far as strength wise, had to put our shoulders on there and squat those limbs to just lift them up. again, sometimes I think that it's a case right there of where they're maybe trying to attract, maybe Bigfoot or maybe a female. There's one right there that you're seeing was built in one night right there. It was built October 15th, 2016. Well, I was not too far from where Keith was, where that lake that he mentioned a while ago. And those limbs right there, like I said, are over they're 25 foot long, over 300 pounds. Me and my son both had to get under there, and there's 7 tracks around there. So these structures come up, and it's a method, again, of them to communicate with others, depending on what they're wanting to communicate. But strangely, a lot of times they end up being right there just off the road. And I think that's not coincidence. I think it's that they're wanting for the others to see. And then I think sometimes they get bored, and maybe they're just doing that right there. They're actually doing the building of the structures just because they get bored to have something to do. And you'll see trees that are brought in there that are not native to the area. And so that's how you can tell. And me and my wife actually sit there one night and watched one come in there. Didn't see it as such, but when we got there, he hadn't added the structures. When it got to be daylight, the structure had sometime been added during that time. So again, that's my opinion of it. What they mean, like I said, is a lot of it's speculation, a lot of it's not. But I'm not going to say for sure, because we really don't know yet. Just like we don't actually know about Bigfoot. All we know is structures are real, and it's something that's affiliated with Bigfoot.
Keith, what are your thoughts about tree structures?
It's obvious that the massive strength of them to do what they done. Randy Edwards and I going into Thornton Wells down there, the cedar tree.
Yes.
Where's it broke at?
Yeah.
And how did it get to be a perfect 90-degree break and not be splintered? And the top of it, the way it would have fell, something had to pull the top down like this instead of it, and it comes straight across, and the tops had been pulled down, and they were doing a pipeline in the area at the time, and they was bringing in mats because it's swampy down in there and stuff for the trucks to string the pipeline. And we were on the way out when Randy seen it, and we got out and we examined it, and they was using that as concealment for an observation point to watch what was going on, because there was a lot of trucks coming in and out in their home down there. And they definitely make structures. There's no doubt about it. The in Shady Lake, Washita Mountains up there, the park ranger over the Shady Lake recreation area, he showed me pictures of a very, very elaborately built, I would almost say a cabin. It was crude, but it was well built.
Yeah.
And he said, there's been no human traffic in there for 5 years. And he used to walk 27 miles a day. And after he met Tanya and I, he cut down to 16 miles a day. He took 3 places off his route. He thought he'd been seeing bears in that area where that structure was. And he was not a believer. He wasn't even a skeptic, but after me and Tanya got done with him, he was a believer because we showed him tracks.
As Keith said, with concealment there, they actually hide in these structures, sometimes used to kill their food, to kill the deer, the hogs, and things that walk by. And that's a great point by Keith right there, one that I had not mentioned. But like I said, for just watching their area, for protecting their area.
Observation point. That's like a lot of these crude structures that you see, they're almost wedged or horseshoed. That's a deer trap that they build, and they run them into it. And when them deer get off their legs, go down between all them branches and stuff, he can't jump, and he can't, he'll end up breaking a leg, and he's had then,
Right. Paul Ayotte, what are your thoughts about the tree structures?
Well, looking at some of these, I've seen some of these on TV. I've seen some pictures here. Yeah, you've got to be pretty doggone strong and be moving around lumber like that, That's that takes a big animal to move around the logs like that. That's for sure. But that makes sense, running a deer through there and you get all tangled up, or maybe an elk his antlers all tangled up and trips and falls and breaks a bone, and there you got it. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah. Matt Slater.
Yeah, I like that the idea of it actually being sort of a hunting trap. I always thought that maybe they were, like Will was saying, directional indicators, just some form of, structural communication, boundary markers, and stuff like that. But a hunting trap actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. That is one that I have not heard. So that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and go on to the next one.
Okay, this right here is the structure that I was looking at when the Gugway ran up on me right there. You can see the Bigfoot they're actually obsessive compulsive. So you notice that structure, what's there on one side basically has to be there on the other side. It has to be crossed right there perfectly in the middle. And then the angles of the triangles in there that it forms right there have to be perfect too. And you can see that's almost like a mirror image. And there's a one limb going to the side where it's or up to the side there and through the top there where you can see where it's divided right there. I'm standing there at that whenever I see that Gugway running up on me right there. And so that's what actually brought me to the sides of the woods. But you can see it, very, very beautiful structure. I mean, some of the ones that we have down here, it could appear in any modern art museum that there is. But that's the one right there that actually nearly got me in trouble.
All right, let's move to the next one.
Again, this is one that my wife and we got to watch where we come down there at a certain time of day. We'd take about 5 or 6 pictures at the same time of day and then go home and compare what we had the day before. And he was adding stuff to this right here. And what I was also finding down there when he was building this structure there in the woods, it was probably 40 yards off the road there, but I was finding piles of wood over there that this thing was bringing in to build through there. And some of these, the kids were getting out of school and stuff. And so they were inhibiting the building right there. And she and I were down there one night to actually take some pictures. So I happen to have a megaphone there that's got a siren on it, and it's also got a very, very loud microphone on it. And so when I sit there and Cindy goes, "What are we going to do?" I said, "Watch this right here." I said, "Yes, dispatch." I said, "We've got some juveniles down here, looks to be underage drinking. I'm going to need help right quick. Would you please send them down here to Smith Park right quick?" And then whenever I do, I start the car and woo, woo, woo. Hey, buddy, you've never seen something. It looked like the Indianapolis 500. Gentlemen, start your engines because they were gone. And then we got to have the rest of the night with a good Bigfoot hunt right there. But that's the structure. And you can see just how intricate it is. It's done with design. It's not just thrown together. It's not something that fell through there. That's actually done by Bigfoot.
Great picture. Next photo, please.
Here it is. Here's an X right here. And this is funny. It's Fouke's little town. What's the population, Keith? 890 or 980, something like that?
No, sir. The last check I had was 528.
528. Very nice, great little community. Like I said, they handle themselves so well. This right here is actually about a half a mile down from the post office in town. This Bigfoot is coming that close to town because we actually found a tri-X right there where he'd taken another log and bent a big tall log like that and bent in with the X as well. So he had 2 of them there very close. And then across the road, they also do what's called stacking. And it had a bunch of brush over there that a juvenile had. We actually went there at night and actually saw that juvenile running away, but we didn't get it was so fast we didn't get a picture of it. And but we did get a pretty good sighting that juvenile running away. So anyway, that's one of the X's that you see, and that's not natural. And the funny thing about that was when another Bigfoot moves into an area, they'll actually tear the other structure down. When I went into this one, then probably about 2 months after that, another one had come in and actually torn that one down.
Keith, do you come across tree structures quite frequently?
Probably. I'm not in the woods as much as William anymore at my age, but the structures I'm come across, the X's, right here where they make the X here, my arms are meeting, the trees are always touching together. If they're like this, I'm prone to not believe that it's a structure.
Right.
It's Mother Nature. But they seem to always in the right area where I know that it's active, they're touching right there like that. So it's and the shelter, well, that's like the cedar tree. That cedar tree was this big around, and when it broke up here like it did, it wasn't splintered, it broke like this. And then we researched it, and there's no way one of the stringing trucks could have backed in it unless they cleared and tore down a bunch of other trees and everything. And you get over to Smith Park, where William says this picture, and you walk on them hiking trails, and I'm going to tell you what you're going to find. You're going to find some of them, and you're going to find around about 7 or 8 foot up, you'll find what looks like a teepee. And you wonder if they done it when the foliage was on there and stuff
Exactly.
to maybe keep the rain off of them, or if maybe they did it with dry, leaves on it to help them warm in the wintertime. And I believe they migrate. Some of them migrate from just like what they call snowshoes. They come south in the wintertime and go back up north. And then you got them that's here full time. And I don't fully understand the teepee structures, but the X structures is territory markings is how I consider them.
Those are good points by Keith too. That's why we got him here, because he's seen so much be in the woods of Miller County. That's not an anomaly here in Miller County. You find that pretty regular down here because there is a good population of Bigfoot down here. So thank him for that point right there as well, because that's a good point.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on to the next
I believe
one.
we have a family on a creek less than 80 yards from my house. We had a female cougar come through and had twin cubs, and we lost 44 goats in one summer. And I was down there, and there's some tracks. It's not cougar tracks, and it's almost like it was just the front part of the toes and to the front first pivot point in the Bigfoot's feet and everything. So it amazes me at the population, and as William says, it is expanding.
Yeah. Is this the next one? Yeah, this is the next one.
For time's sake, man, let me just get on this real quick. I just mentioned the Tri-X. This is the Tri-X, but this is 100 yards down from where the other X was. You can see all 3 limbs right there. If you've got it on your deal, maybe you can blow it up on your computers and you can see it. That's actually 3 limbs that thing is built, maybe 100 yards down there. They're all basically the same size. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Daniel. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
But that's just for time's sake. But that's actually the Tri-X that I just talked to y'all about. It's not the same one. I said it's about 100 yards down, but it's towards the bank in downtown Fouke, Arkansas. So Fouke, Arkansas, the mega Bigfoot hunting in Arkansas and the South, the United States, as far as I'm concerned.
So this next photo that we have, we can see it just coming from all directions. There's just no way natural occurrences can do that.
That's one that I found with Mary Boland up there in a place called Bryan's Mill, Texas. She flew out of that truck, man, like you done undone her seatbelt and hit her with an ejector seat. Man, she's look at that. And
That's what I call a teepee.
Yeah, that's it right there. I mean, you can see at the top, it's almost like a teepee that was made by the Native Americans. Some people, they'll call it whatever they want to call it. Some people say, well, that's like an asterisk, whatever you want to call it, but they're perfectly spaced out. You can see it. And then I've got another one on my deer lease at Cale, Arkansas. It's shorter than that, but they're perfectly spaced out, and it stretches out more along the bottom way. So again, that very, very beautiful structure. I thought y'all might enjoy seeing that.
Yeah, it's a good picture. Let's go back out to the West Coast. Matt Slater in Washington.
Yeah, that is an intricately well-designed structure. They call it a teepee and stuff like that. It's just the way it's intermeshed at the top just to hold itself up.
Right.
Obviously it's an intelligence that built that. And could it be for housing, for shelter? Probably not. Maybe a trap, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, that's a good question too. Paul Ayot, have you ever come across something like that in Alaska?
No, not something like that. No, those are pretty neat though. Looking at that, something else. Who knows? What is that, a directional thing, or I was just wondering, these ones with the smaller twigs. They're bigger, smaller, whatever. I've got to get out and about more. I gotta do some more research in the field. Thanks. So.
2 guys down here named Will and Keith be glad to take you for sure. The funny thing is, we also have a Bigfoot we've been researching now for about a year and a half, and he's got his headquarters down there about 5 miles from where that one is. So,
So this next photo, when I first saw it, the word blocking came to mind. My theory was that it was some type of boundary blocker your boundary marker. But of course, this is all just theory and speculation. William, what do you think about this one?
I think it's probably a blocking marker too. They do build fences. They have areas that they don't want you in. Sometimes it only takes one tree the way they've been it, but that is, you can see how that is wrapped right there, how it's structured through there, woven, and the way it is there between those trees. It looks like it was either using that because they will use that again to, like he said, to direct deer in a certain direction. So it appears to be a blocking monument or blocking endeavor, and I find that quite often down there in the woods here around Miller County and Sulphur River, and I think you're spot on with that right there.
Keith, what do you think about this one?
I would say it could lean either direction. It might be a territorial marker, or it could be something to slow the deer down and maybe head them towards a larger and bigger horseshoe or a V-trap. Because when they go to hunting, it's more than one of them running them towards a spot, and they're as fast as they are. And if they want to catch multiple deer at one time, they would use something like that to either turn them to go a different direction or something. Now, they rely on wildlife to exist. I mean, they eat plenty of foliage and stuff, but they're meat eaters. They're carnivores for sure.
Matt and Paul, before we close out this category, any thoughts or questions to these fine gentlemen about tree structures?
Well, like you're saying, it's all speculation and conjecture at this point, but I think we're on to some good ideas, especially with the animal trap or the directing the flow of wildlife if they're chasing, or just the natural, like building a barrier on a deer trail will divert them around into, a different area where it might be easier for them to get, if they're hunting deer. Or there was one of the photos looked like it was a structure built across a trail. I've heard that they'll do that just to, keep people out of there. Even if one or two, maybe three people have, stumbled back there just going hiking, one day, they'll throw something across the trail. People will just naturally not go that direction. Oh, it's blocked. Oops.
Yeah. Paul Ayat.
Yeah, there's something else. Like you said, in the trap and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, I'm going to come down there researching because I'd like to see put a hog on one of those sticks and a fire up underneath. And then
And an apple in his mouth.
Yeah.
That's right. That sounds like a plan.
We found that yesterday, and that has not been there. That's a very, very recent build right there. But what's not conjecture is the fact that was built with intelligent design. It didn't just happen by
Absolutely.
wind falling.
One reason I say is that about the trap deal is because normally if you look around close to where they are, where the structures are, what I call for a pen, a trap to catch them, there's normally a boneyard of deer bones somewhere close. So when you find more than one deer carcass laying in an area and you see a structure such as what I'm referring to as a V or a horseshoe, that just cinches me, and almost, I can't say without any doubt, but I'm going to say in my mind, that's what it was used for, because of the boneyards, known bone piles of the deer that are sometimes close to it. They don't carry them a long ways off, and I'm thinking that if they are that intelligent, and you just keep walking circles, and a deer on the block on the last picture, a deer, when something's after it, it's going to take the point of least resistance. And if that structure there is in the middle of the trail, and that deer ain't gonna have to, he's looking behind him and listening behind him, and he ain't checking up, and he hits that, he's caught.
Yep.
So, gentlemen, we're about down to the 12-minute mark. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get to the rest of the photos that we wanted to get to. So I want to turn the focus of the conversation and discussion to Mr. Keith Crabtree, the Legend of Boggy Creek, the legend of Boggy Creek,
go.
Keith Crabtree.
The true story.
The true story. Keith, obviously, being a part of that movie completely altered the course of your life. As William, your experience and your encounter that you had with a Sasquatch altered the course of your life. So, Keith, what was the best part of this whole Legend of Boggy Creek experience?
I'll be honest with you. After about the first 2 years, 3 years, it kind of wore off. And then I was the second hide and seek champion of the world because I stayed docile for over 40 years.
Yeah.
And then when Uncle Smokey passed, as some people wanted to interview me, and next thing you know, I'm back into it big time. But I've always been in the woods. There's a scene in the movie with me, Monroe Smith, and John Knight. We're walking down the lane going to Jeff Crabtree's house. That one scene was about me and Monroe going coon hunting. And in the last 7 years, I've had more encounters. I've had sightings. And it's almost, I hate to say it, Duke says I'm just a magnet. When I was in Montana, he said, I'm hunting and taking pictures everywhere. And then I take a picture, look down there where Keith is, and there's 7 of them watching Keith.
Exactly.
And then he got pictures of them, So it's been a wonderful ride. And the notoriety, I don't try and let it go to my head. But when you got close friends such as William and Stephen, they're going to make you realize that it was a big deal.
That's right.
I try and just stay humbled, and that's how I want to live my life. But when it comes to Bigfoot, I'm anxious to see another one. I'm just addicted. It gets in your blood. They say diesel smoke from operating heavy equipment gets in your blood. Well, Bigfoot is worse. It's like gold prospecting. The first time you see that color, you're hooked. Well,
Yep.
when I seen that stump down there and I turned around and come back and that stump wasn't there in Kelly Bayou, West Fork, man, that was it. I was down there every day for the next 3 months trying to see it again. I burn up $400 worth of gas. The notoriety, that's what got me in this last movie they're making. And we went down and shot it at the Cersei house. Fred was nice enough to let us come down on the property and shoot my scene down there. And it's followed me, but like I said, I stayed docile for about 40 years. And people had asked me a little bit about it, but I just shrugged it off. I was making good money and everything. And then when I got disabled and went out to the workforce, I had plenty of time to get back in the woods. And, I've about swamped the boat in Sulphur River from trot lining down there, and I always felt the hair standing up on the back of my neck. I know somebody's watching. I know something was watching me while I was down there. And like I said, I go to North Dakota and check into a motel room, and here's a whole restaurant staff around my table. And that was 18 months after the movie was released,
Keith and I both were speakers last year at the Nebraska Bigfoot Conference, and the number of people that were around his table, that were buying his merchandise, that were listening to his podcast. Yeah. Keith is not only he's so believable, Keith is truthful, not believable. Keith is truthful, and then believable follows that right there in the way he does. And so you see that in their minds when they think, oh man, this is Keith. I have a lot of people call me, Will, can you actually get me an interview there with Mr. Crabtree? And Keith will say, well, Mr. Crabtree was my daddy, and so just very, very humble like that right there. There are people who are fortunate enough that I think that they put out an aura that Bigfoot are certainly attracted to. I think Keith is one. I certainly think I'm one. I think Christy's probably one. Duke is one. You can, and I think it's the aura that you set off, because I'm not out to kill them. I'm not out to hurt them. I'm out to prove their existence. whether folks want to believe or not. But I've told y'all before, they are real. They're 100% real. They're in every state but Hawaii. And but with Keith, like I said, he's one of Arkansas's most famous. He's one of the fortunate sons. He's one of the sons here that when people come around, that's somebody they always want to see, and that's one reason why, because he is humble. He isn't letting it go to his head, because like we've all said, they have a whole lot more to do with it than we do sometimes. But the way he's greeted, never turns down an autograph. He don't charge you for an autograph. He'll sit there and laugh with you and cut up with you, and we'll make jokes with each other. And I'm so very fortunate to have him as my friend first and research partner second, right there. But it's just been a wonderful ride. And we tend to go a couple times a year to different places. We go down to Caddo Lake. There's a creature down there called the Caddo Critter, the Caddo Creature. We go down there. So again, but just very, very fortunate to have Keith, because he is truthful. And that crowd is there because, like I said, he's truthful, and not just truthful, but believable as well.
I have actually been face to face with the mother grizzly bear in Alaska in 1977. And I had two people that was with me at the Hanobia conference, and Pat Baxter's son Wimp. He's large. We sat the back of the work bus. We were the bad boys, and the grizzly bear, Mama grizzly bear, I had one sandwich left because I was feeding the cubs. And when I turned around and I looked, I was seeing somewhere between her belly button and her chest, not her shoulders. And when I done this, I looked up, and there's one thing on my body moved, and that was from my wrist right here like that. And she caught it like that, eat it, twisted sideways, got down on the ground and walked off. And I've told that story, and there's some people in Hanobia that I told it to, and Wimp's grandson come up, and he said, "You're Keith Crabtree. You worked with my grandfather in Alaska on a trans-Alaskan pipeline." I said, "I sure did." He said, "You're the one that was face to face to the grizzly bear." And this lady that I had been talking to was standing there, and she said, "Sir, I apologize. I didn't believe you, but you have been vindicated." I believe everything you say.
So real quick, we're down to the last 5 minutes. This movie also springboarded you into the Keith Crabtree Boggy Creek Fouke Monster campout every year.
Yes, actually, Footstock down in Huntsville got this one kicked off. Some friends of mine put on a by invitation only when I asked him, "Why don't we do one public?" And they said, "Where would we do it?" And I said, "How about Smith Park?" And so that's how it come about. And it was once a year, now it's twice a year. And this was the smallest amount of people there in 5-6 years that we've been doing it. At one time, we had 87 tents down there and numerous RVs. And they were applying for a grant down there at that time. And the man that signs off on the grant come down there during the camp out. They didn't know we was down there, and we didn't know he was coming. He went back to Little Rock and signed off on the grant. And now we got a new pavilion and electricity and water down there, and remodeled groundskeeper quarters and stuff. And this camp out's done a lot for it.
Excellent.
And the reason it wasn't as good or as populous this year, because we've had 7 inches of rain this last week. And I mean, it is just the tracks that Daniel and I found today were full of water. So we've had so much, and that's the reason why. And last year and then the year before, it hit us with, last year it hit us with a tornado. Actually, the year before that, it actually hit us with rain. But again, it's free, folks. It's something that's good for the kids. It's good for you to get out there, and you're the nicest people you've ever met in your life.
And another thing, COVID did not damper the camp out.
Excellent.
Sure didn't. It did. Just the Bigfoot people are solid.
Keith Crabtree, it has been an absolute honor and a pleasure to have you with us. William Lunsford,
Daniel.
Same. Stephen Hill, who couldn't be with us, unfortunately, but you, William, you, Keith, and Stephen Hill are generals in the Bigfoot community and in Bigfoot research. So we thank you for all that you bring to the table.
I salute you on that statement, but
thanks to our friends from Alaska there that have helped make this show possible too. Good job with them as well.
So Matt Slater, Paul Ayotte, any final thoughts?
Thank you guys for being on the show again. Mr. Crabtree, it's an honor to meet you today. Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show, Mr. Lunsford, Mr. Crabtree, and Mr. Becker, and Mr. Slater. Thank you.
I have a few pictures that I'm gonna give, and when he sees them, I'm gonna send them with him when he goes.
Great.
I look forward to seeing those.
For my co-host, Matt Slater in Quincy, Washington, for my other co-host, Paul Ayotte, researcher at large
That's it.
in Anchorage, Alaska, for myself, Daniel Becker, for Keith Crabtree, William Lunsford, and Stephen Hill, who couldn't be with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. And guys, thank you for such a great conversation and great input, great analysis. We really appreciate it. And shout out to our researcher consultant, Duke Sullivan from World Bigfoot Central, to Robin Haynes as well.
Let's not forget our studio here who hosts.
Oh, yes, the Texarkana Podcast Studio. Thank you for hosting us and being such good sport.
And our veterans. I can't forget our veterans and the ones who take care of us, our law enforcement people. Thank you so much. Appreciate you for what y'all do, because like I said, without what y'all do, we can't do what we do. And
that's right. I'm sorry.
My closing words is everyone be blessed.
For those of you in Louisiana, Texas, and Arkansas, we highly encourage you to seek out Texarkana Podcast Studio for any of your studio needs. They've been absolutely great, very professional, good quality work that they do, and just wonderful to work with. Gentlemen, have a good evening, have a good day, and we'll see you next time.
yes, thank y'all. Thank all of y'all.